What if Shane survived the night that Rick killed him and continued on with the group? How would the story of The Walking Dead change? Would he be a better leader than Rick? Let's get right into it. Our story begins with Shane confronting Rick.
I know you. You won't be able to live with this. What you know about what I can live with? You got no idea what I can live with, what I live with.
Rick looked at his torso. He saw an expanding splash of red. Just a moment after that, he felt a burning pain in his chest and he realized his best friend, his brother, had just shot him in cold blood. He felt his consciousness slipping away. He thought of Lori and Carl and how he won't be there for them, and he dropped that. Shane was in shock. He just killed his best friend, but he had to do it. He had to save Lori, Carl, and the rest of the group. Suddenly, he hears a voice that he knew all too well. He turned around, expecting to see just another walker, but it wasn't just a walker. It was Rick. His corpses came back to life, but he wasn't bitten. How is this possible? He stopped thinking about it. He didn't have time for this right now, and he shot the walker right into his brains, where he should have aimed the first time.
Dad?
Shane turned around. It was Carl. He just witnessed his dad being killed.
Listen to me, Carl. Your dad was bit. I'm sorry.
Carl and Shane investigated Rick's body. Shane couldn't understand it. Rick wasn't bitten. Why did he turn? Shane had to grab Carl. He wanted to hug his dad's corpses.
Hey, Carl, you know this is dangerous. Stop.
And then they heard it. A giant herd of walkers going right after them. Shane immediately grabbed Carl and ran to the farm. There he explains that a huge number of walkers are going right for the farm.
This is my farm. I'll die here.
Shane doesn't take any time to convince everybody to follow him. He takes Carl and Lori to the car and they go. Herschel dies while defending the farm. Mom, I saw that. He turned into a walker.
It was bit, Lori. I'm sorry.
We have to get back to the highway. That's where everybody else will be.
They didn't leave the farm. They're all dead. We need to find a safe place.
Shane, we are going to the highway, where I and Carl are leaving.
They get to the highway and the group is back together. Daryl is suspicious about Shane because he knows that he was lying about Randall. Daryl knew that Shane probably killed Rick, but he decided not to say anything. Lori is also suspicious, but at that point they didn't really know that everyone turns. So she doesn't think that Shane killed Rick because she thinks that otherwise he wouldn't turn. The group eventually finds the prison and the prisoners inside. Shane can't take risks. They're all a threat, so he kills them all. Remember, Lori died because these prisoners sabotaged them. So now, because they are all dead, Lori gives birth to a girl they named Judith Walsh. Lori needed a C-section and Maggie and Carol were there and could help her. Soon Glenn and Maggie are kidnapped and Shane, of course, doesn't risk the group for them. And they're both killed after telling the governor the location of their community. After that, events play out pretty similarly as they did in the show, until Shane and governor decide to meet up and talk. The difference here is that Shane is willing to give Michonne to the governor to assure peace between the communities. So Shane kidnaps Michonne and takes her to an area near the Woodbury, where he leaves her tied up and informs the governor through walkie-talkie the exact location where she left her. The rest of the group finds out about this after he comes back and they're not okay with it.
You're responsible for this. We could have saved Glenn, we could have saved Maggie, we could have saved Michonne.
This is what I had to do, Daryl.
The group doesn't feel safe with Shane. He's too dangerous and he cares only about Lori and Carl. Lori becomes distant from him. He's too immoral and there's a chance that he even killed Rick. The fight with Woodbury goes similarly. When they beat the Woodbury, Shane doesn't want to bring everybody from the Woodbury to the prison. Daryl and everybody else insists, but Shane doesn't allow it. Daryl is becoming more and more important to the group, and although he doesn't want to be a leader, everybody else simply can't put up with Shane anymore. They eventually decide to give Woodbury some supplies every now and then. After some time, Daryl finds out that everyone turns. He dropped supplies at Woodbury and had a little chat with some people, and it seemed like most people knew that you turn even if you aren't bit. Later that night, Daryl told this to Lori, and now it was clear that Shane killed Rick. It was clear now. Shane killed Rick in cold blood. They decided to confront him. Shane was outside. It was already dark.
Hey, Shane.
Oh, hey, Lori.
We have time to talk.
For you, always.
The day Rick was bit, when you guys were out, there was a gunshot. We all heard it. What was that about?
I don't know, Lori. That was a long time ago.
Shane, just tell me, did you kill Rick?
After Shane heard these words, his heart started to pound faster than in a very long time.
Listen to me. We both know that Rick wasn't made for this world.
So he did kill him.
Lord took a step back.
Lori, you can't...
Too late.
Daryl stepped out of the dark.
You've been caught, man.
Shane realized the danger he was in.
Listen, Rick could not be a leader.
You killed my husband.
Lori, he wasn't made for this. He was weak. You know that.
I want you to listen to me very carefully. Me and Daryl won't tell anybody about this, but we're watching you, Shane. You're dangerous. You sacrifice one more group member and Daryl will kill you himself and never again talk to Carl. And Judith is not yours anymore. I don't care what you have to say. You're a murderer.
If there one more thing like that, I'll put you down myself.
Eventually, the governor comes back, just like in the show, and wants to take the prison for himself. Remember that there's also not a big outbreak like in the show of that disease that was transmitted from pigs, as it didn't bring in the people from Woodbury, so that's also not a thing. So when the governor destroys the gates, Shane manages to get back to the group and they escape from the prison. They're more prepared and they aren't so split up, so they manage to get away together. So they don't go to Terminus because they're already together, and they decide to go directly to Washington. After a very long walk, they arrive in Washington, and from here everything goes as it did in the show. Aaron finds them and introduces them to Alexandria. There's just one difference here. Shane sees how pathetic and soft everybody inside the walls is, and pretty much immediately decides to take over. Rick wanted to take over, but Shane doesn't have as high morals as Rick did, and he's been almost through as much as Season 6 Rick at this point, so he's even more evil, so to speak, than in Season 2. Eventually they also find out about other communities, and soon Savers also find out about Alexandria. So soon Negan comes to pay a little visit to a little community called Alexandria.
Little pig, let me in.
Who's this clown outside?
You heard that? He called me a clown. Dwighty boy, blow up the gates.
There's a big explosion and the gates drop. Negan comes in.
Everybody, get ready!
The Savers quickly win the short protest and make everybody kneel before Negan.
So, who here is the leader? You are, aren't you? Simon. What's his name?
Shane.
Shane. Well, hello, Shane. I gotta tell you, I never saw such an egoistic, psychopathic dude as you.
It's time for you to leave, man, or I'll put you down myself.
You can't be serious. You're clearly outnumbered, Shane. So Shane here seems to think that you guys can take all of my men on. So now, I'll need to beat a holy fuck out of one of you. What about you?
He points Lucille at Lori and Shane snaps. He stands up and punches Negan. His people quickly immobilize him.
That was not cool, shady boy. I see you still don't quite understand the situation you're in. And I see you won't understand it no matter what I do. So the only logical thing to do, Shane, is to use the Lucille treatment, as I call it, on you. And everyone you care about, everyone you love, will watch.
Dad?
It's all right, Carl. I'm fine. You'll be fine.
Enough talking.
Negan lifted Lucille and swung her with all his strength onto Shane's skull again and again and again. Everybody watched in shock and terror as their leader got massacred. Shane wasn't always a good man, but he didn't deserve this. Nobody does. And now it's up to Daryl to lead the group further.
Liquid.